Poison Rana.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Eagles Don't Hunt Flies, the show all about the life and career of Jon Moxley on the Poison Rana Network. I'm your host, Martin Bushby, and joining me, as you can see if you're watching live with us on YouTube, Mr. Dickie Bird, Mr. Brandon from New Jersey. Lads, how's it going this month? Cool.
I'm good,
Which
man.
one are you talking to? Sorry, can we start again? We're not live, are we?
Let's do it live. Anyway, how are you, Dickie? How's it going, mate?
I mean, it's not great. As everyone is probably, anyone watching live is aware, we're not doing it at our normal time. So, and anyone watching live would usually see the sun pouring through the back of my shot. But it's 1 o'clock in the morning, which is fine. It's, like I said, it was fine, but of course I screwed up all the days, and it's actually 1 o'clock in the morning on Mrs. Dickie's birthday. So,
oh no,
yeah, I didn't reveal this until after I realized. So, yes, I have breakfast reserved at a cafe at 8:30 in the morning. So
sweet.
So I just have to make it to that and make it for the rest of the day. But aside from that, Martin, I'm here. I might be a little quieter. That might be the difference.
What a trooper, mate. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And what about you, Brandon? How are you this month, mate? How does life find you?
It's going well, man. This time it's kind of unique for many reasons, but I feel refreshed, man. I feel fresher in the morning. I feel energized. I feel ready to go, man. It was a great month, man.
Good.
I don't know what to say, man. I feel great, man. I'm happy to be here.
Brandon, this is the last time that we'll talk to you before you have a new president. How are you feeling?
Come on, man. We can't say that yet.
Oh Jesus! Well, I'm trying to fucking get you to say something. Like you didn't, Martin. What Martin asked you, you didn't give him anything. So I thought I'd, try something.
I agree with you 100%. But listen, man, we got to keep the faith. Keep knocking on doors. Keep phone banking. Do the right thing. Save democracy. Don't let me fall into a dictatorship. How about that?
Right. How many doors have you knocked on this month, then, Brandon?
Oh man, many in the New Jersey area. I mean, my state is fine. I mean, that's except a few pockets in the area. I mean,
sure.
I mean,
you're close to a state that maybe needs a bit of help, right?
Right.
You may even be wearing a hoodie referencing them.
Correct. Every day we see a commercial for both parties that's getting annoying, but I mean, it's for a good cause, right? I mean, Pennsylvania is an important. What's that?
I was going to say one of the commercials you see is for a good cause. I don't know about the other one.
Oh yeah, yeah. I live near what do you call it? What do you call those? What's the term for a battleground
swing state?
Yes, swing state. Yeah. So living near there is annoying, but I understand. I mean, hey, when you raise $1 billion for your campaign, you got to go all out. And just like,
which one is that?
The Democrats.
Okay. All right.
But Martin, in your general elections, or Dickie, do you have like stuff like this? Like, do you live near a swing state?
No.
Or Martin's
Completely
case,
different,
Swing City,
Brandon.
right? Like born.
You might not be celebrating that, Brandon, but we have got a reason to celebrate this month, believe it or not. It's the first year anniversary of this very show. We started this thing 1 year ago, so it might be Mrs. Dickie's birthday, but it's also our birthday. So happy birthday to us, and to celebrate that, Dickie, I believe there's a special offer for folks over at Chopped Tees.
Yes, we do have 20% off all of our Eagles Don't Hunt Flies merchandise. The Deathmatch Van Gogh you can grab at a lower price, and our very awesome looking track jacket is probably the biggest discount that you can get from all of the things on offer. We'll leave that going for probably another week or so, just to give people time if they're listening to this podcast in their podcast feed. If you're interested to go and check that stuff out, it's chopped-tees.com/Eagles Don't Hunt Flies, or just go to chopped-tees.com. It's on the homepage. You'll see all the stuff there. But also, if you're watching on video, and it's good that we're doing this at night because I can kind of wear this without frying myself, but the Poison Rana varsity jacket that I am wearing, and this thing is absolutely legit, is on pre-order at the moment. Now, pre-order just means that you will secure your size. We will make sure that there is one for you if you order it, and you get 10% off because it's not going to sit around in a warehouse. We have to pay for that. It's going to go straight to you. So therefore, you get 10% off. After the pre-order, there will be limited. I'm serious. There will be limited stock. Oh, thank you, Martin. There will be limited stock available. So it will be first come, first serve, but it is money back guarantee. If you don't like it, you just think it's not what you thought it would be, just send it back to us. We'll give you a full cash refund. Or if the size isn't correct, you can send it back to us for an available size in your preference. So that you go to chopped-tees.com/Poison Rana pre-order as one word, and check it out. Honestly, it is the best jacket I own. I'm annoyed that it's actually becoming summer here because it'll have to sit in my closet for another year, but it's worth it. And this is proper wool and genuine leather. So this jacket will last you decades, and it's beautiful.
It is. It's a fantastic jacket. Proper reminds me of that sweet one that Axel Foley's wearing in Beverly Hills Cop. It's absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
the Detroit Lions ones. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, brilliant.
It's a great
look
fit
at this
too.
model. If you're watching on the video, look at this model who's modeling this jacket.
I don't look this
beautiful.
cool.
What a beautiful man.
It was like an emo album being filmed or something like that.
I do not look this cool normally. It's the jacket. I can tell you this. So like, if you want to look cooler,
yes,
it even adds like it the way it fits kind of makes it look like you got a bit of muscle, adds a bit to your frame and everything. That's the best sell I can do. But it's like I said, quality is guaranteed. It's by far the highest quality thing that we've ever put on the shop. So much so that I had to get a garment maker to make the stuff because I couldn't just get a company to do it. I had to hire a guy. So you'll love it. I guarantee you.
Fantastic.
It looked like you were shooting a video for Simple Plan. Remember that band? I love the way how dour you look in emo. Great picture.
Thank you.
So yeah, chopped-tees.com. Check all that stuff out. The 20% off for the mock stuff, the new jacket, loads of other new contributors on there. We've got all sorts of stuff going on there, haven't we?
Yep. Check
He's
the
got a
site
feet.
out. Sorry, I'm like, I don't want to talk about the store too much more. I kind of, let's,
Let's go
it's
down.
a great,
Yeah,
it's a great site. I love running it. It's my favorite
Like a
thing.
Bowflex ad. Come on.
So this
we'll
week
talk about Bowflex.
we are going to go slightly off script, and we're going to be looking back at season 6 of Total Divas, the season that, of course, featured Dean Ambrose and Renee Young, as she was at the time, Renee Paquette. But it's not just us this week, lads. We're joined by a very, very, very special guest. We couldn't do a show about Total Divas without this man, in fact. He's one half of the post-wrestling empire. He's Mr. Total Divas himself. Joining us this month is none other than Mr. Wai Ting. Wai, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this show.
You're very welcome. Yes, you contacted me about this, or at least you discussed this with me. I think even maybe a year ago when this started. So congratulations on 1 year, guys. That's quite the accomplishment, and I'm happy to kick off year 2 with I think what's going to be your best show ever.
Wow. I mean, I've no doubt that it will be up there, but yeah, best show ever. So how are you? I mean, Total Divas, for those unaware, you were a massive fan of this show. I mean, tell us about your history with the show. Did you have some favorite seasons? What got you into it?
Okay. I guess I would be a massive fan in comparison to most of the podcasters in our space that you might listen to. Because I got the sense most of the other people sort of in my position just detested it, or just detested reality TV, and just simply were if they did watch it, maybe unwilling to admit it. So I guess in comparison, I was a huge fan, but it's not like my identity was carved out by my fandom of this show. So I don't know if I even have a favorite season. I watched all of them. They were varying degrees of, I think, quality. But it was I enjoy it because it's a very light, fun watch, and because it really broke up, I think, the type of wrestling content that we typically had available to us. I also really respected the way that it managed to convey personality. And in the end, professional wrestling is just about creating characters and creating personalities, and then seeing conflict created and resolved, which this show did really well.
Did you have a favorite diva from it?
Oh, listen. There's no Total Divas without the Bellas, and
yes,
once they spun off into their own series, I think that was season 8 or 9. This show really started to suffer. There's it's interesting because the Bellas on screen, in their incarnations on TV, I don't find that interesting whatsoever, especially at the beginning of Divas. But once Divas started, you really kind of got a great sense of who they actually were. And they're very compelling. I don't know what it is. They're very compelling two people. I mean, the fact that they're twins, yes. But they also have very distinct personalities, the two of them. And I think they also come across rather authentic, especially on a show like this. Whereas I think the average, maybe person might appear on the show and they might often come across annoying, and the Bellas might come across annoying to several people. But I actually find them really interesting people, genuinely.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously I used to listen to your reviews you did, and sort of read stuff about it, but I'd not watched a single episode of this show until we were we should definitely look at the season Moxley was on there. What about you, Dickie? Did you ever checked out Total Divas before this podcast?
But before this podcast, as in before we started recording this podcast, yes, probably about 3 hours ago.
But prior to that,
prior to that, I mean, I was kind of sort of Wade said that this was something that we had planned a year ago. I think we kind of initially tabled this for something like the 3rd episode or something like that, and I did watch a little bit then. But quite frankly, no. I guess because the height of the popularity of this was in my dark time. I was sort of out of wrestling. Although although this season I believe I was watching wrestling because they said that Moxley was the WWE champion, so I was definitely watching then, sort of thing. But yeah, this is what was this, season 8?
6.
Season
6,
6.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was aware of it, but look, I'm just not a big reality TV guy. It's kind of one of those things that if Mrs. Dickie is watching it or something, I may have watched the other day the secret lives of Mormon wives, I think was.
Wow.
Yeah, which sounds interesting, I guess. She was watching that, so I sort of watched a bit of it in the background kind of thing. But that's really my extent of Total Divas, Total Bellas, and all reality TV shows. I guess I sort of had a bit of a question for Wai because, I remember not too long ago, I guess it was like the final season of Total Bellas, and I remember listening to your show, Total Recall, with your lovely wife, Pauline.
Before she was my wife.
Yeah, before she was your wife. And that was kind of my question that I had to ask you was, what's the chronology of you watching the show versus you meeting your to-be wife?
Right.
Was the show going, were you watching the show before you met her? And
Yeah.
did you bond over it when you...
I would say so. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things that my wife and I to this day still have in common is we both love reality TV. I was about to say trashy reality TV, but I actually think the reality TV we watch is actually of a pretty high quality. So I don't really even consider it trash. But yeah, this was certainly one of our bonding sort of, I don't know, shows when it came to a crossover between something that she could get into, which is Bunim and Murray, who are the producers of the show and who are the same people that produce Keep It Up with the Kardashians. That style of reality TV show, and along with my interest, which is professional wrestling. So yeah, we kind of, it was one of the things we watched. It wasn't the best thing we watched, but it was one of the things we managed to sit down and watch.
Had she seen it beforehand?
I think she'd heard of it, yeah. And then she had friends that might have even kept up with it a bit more. So that's sort of one of the other maybe big talking points about this series is that it managed to be a successful crossover show that introduced the WWE to a very different audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember my brother's wife who had no care for wrestling at all telling me that she was watching it and stuff like that. So yeah, there was definitely a sort of big audience outside of regular WWE TV. Because obviously anyone who's never heard of Total Divas before, it was a scripted reality show, like we said, produced by the E! Network and WWE that ran for 9 seasons from 2013 to 2019. Brandon, I would imagine you were a big Total Divas fan back in the day, were you not?
I watched the first 2 seasons. I remember when it first came out. I think it was it involved the Brodus Clay and deal that they didn't make WrestleMania. I think that was one of the first episodes or whatever. And was it Cameron that got mad or whatever? Yeah, but I was watching the first 2 seasons of that show. I thought it was innovative and good. I thought it was interesting with what the WWE divas do after beyond the ring and stuff like that. I mean, which is I love reality TV actually. I grew up watching The Real World and Road Rules and all that kind of stuff. So this I sink my teeth into stuff like this and Jersey Shore too. You can't forget them. The Godfathers of reality TV. But yeah, I was totally first 2 seasons were my jam, and then kind of fade off into it, and then I sort of came back when the Moxley season came to being, because it was a fresher cast, not just the Bellas, but other interesting people on the show that you see, like Natty, the Boat, and other people.
And the Miz, right?
And the Miz and Mrs. Before they became their own show, protesting elephants and whatnot. Maurice.
Now, the Jersey Shore, that would be classed as a trashy reality show.
Right. Oh, yeah. Of course. I mean, with the drugs and stuff like that.
I was trying to distinguish the difference before, Wai. When you said that, I'm just they're all, I don't, even if you don't say that they're bad, it's just all they're all just reality shows. They're all done very well, and so it's like,
Yeah,
yes,
what
that
I
would
guess
be-
what I consider trashy typically is like how manipulative the shows come across to me, like how well it, like almost all reality TV has some element of just fabrication, same as professional wrestling. You probably have some sort of outline that you're kind of playing through. I guess what I consider to be trashy is like how much a show is deliberate in like driving up controversy in like the sort of like cheapest of ways in order to get attention, versus ones that I sometimes kind of feel does it a little bit more subtly and a little bit better.
Yeah, like a
And-
Big Brother would put in a load of people who they know aren't going to get on, so it'll create drama and stuff like that. I am surprised. I'm not surprised though that Dickie is not a fan of reality TV, because I feel like Australia is like the home of reality TV at the moment. You've got like Married at First Sight, like originated there. I saw something else advertised on TV a while back. I Married a Farmer. I mean, you could have been on that one, Dickie, couldn't you?
I mean, even I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here is
Yes,
like a
love
British
that
show, but
show.
it's in Australia, and
Made
but
in
I mean,
Bondi and all that. Yeah.
Is
Well,
it
I'm
below
a
deck
huge-
down there too?
I don't know. I'm not a big TV guy, I guess. But I mean, like all of these things are on streaming, so like I guess that's the thing. But I mean, these reality shows got people going because they just, I don't know, just turn the box on and that's we're talking like a decade ago, right? But I never really did that. But I mean, now I got Way on the show, so at least this will be relevant. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Drive to Survive. Is that a reality show or is that like a docuseries? It's a reality show, right?
Well, what is a reality show? I guess maybe we should lead with that, because the genre encompasses like game shows. It encompasses more like kind of real world type of like documentary style, and then like Drive to Survive, which you might just even consider a straight up documentary. Are documentaries reality shows?
Well, I guess it's like when you call it like a scripted reality show, I guess you can't really say that with Drive to Survive. The producers after the fact can do their thing to make things more exciting and da 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 da. But I mean, like the result of the race is the result of the race. Like it's not, they didn't go to Baku because the producers said, let's go to Baku this week and whatever. That's happening sort of thing. So
That's
I
no
guess to
different
some
than
degree-
a feature length documentary, or many of them.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. Like I feel like there are kind of lines, but it all is starting to blur into one another. Like
What maybe
like,
distinguishes like Drive to Survive from a documentary is its episodic nature. I guess the fact that it's a season and there are like episodes of a specified length.
But I mean, I've been watching it. Like I've seen a couple of feature-length documentaries on Netflix where I've watched this and I've gone, oh, the way that you're editing these interviews is very clear that you are doing it to say what you want it to say, and they're not saying this in that order. There's no way. Every time it like cuts back and forth between, like when it does those jump cuts, it's like you're doing that because you're cutting between stuff. You don't
That's
need
every documentary,
Exactly,
like Dickie, like once you're getting into the edit room, whatever order you choose to arrange the conversation is some form of editorial, right? That is really just unavoidable. And maybe that's my fascination with reality TV. To me, it's an exercise in editing. It's an exercise in documentary filmmaking. It just gets a bit of a bad rep because there are so many cheap versions of it that are very manipulative, But even that is fascinating.
Cheap versions, and I mean, if we look back at Total Divas, lots of planned scenarios, I guess, is the other thing.
Just like pro wrestling.
Just like first.
Yeah, that's why I appreciated like a certain artistry to it, because it's actually very difficult to create those scenes, especially if you're trying to fabricate them from the beginning. What stood out to me was I see these same people try to do professional wrestling every single week, and their acting is so bad. The direction is so bad. So how is it that I can watch this and I can actually believe Natalia, you know, in her reactions in this scene? How could I actually believe the Bellas and their reactions in this scene? Why do they come across so much more real and so much more fully developed than they do on WWE TV? Yes, Brandon.
And it struck me too, like when you're saying that, like how could they be this natural behind the camera like that? And like, why can't they present that in the ring? And it makes you think, well, maybe the guy behind the scenes over there in the ring doesn't want his wrestlers to be like that, be more authentic than what they were on the reality TV.
It's a very different style of production.
Plus also they're not doing it in front of a massive audience. They're doing, you know, and obviously these documentary makers are skilled in acting like they're not there, sort of thing. So it's probably easier for them to read these scripted lines or whatever when there's only a few of them, or in a more relaxed envienment.
But look how natural Joe Millionaire was when he had like 30 women around him and he was presenting his case.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've never worked in reality TV, but what I can suppose, you know, that is done is, hey, we have a loose, you know, idea, like kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, okay? We have a loose idea of what we want this to be. Take us there. You know, use your natural sort of interactions to take us there. And in the edit room is where we'll kind of piece it all together. They might feed them a line or two in the middle of it. But whereas WWE is just like, here's a script, act it out, no cuts, no edits, and boom, go.
Yeah, when I hear scripted reality TV show, I don't imagine there's actually a script. It's more scripted as in this is everything apart from the script. It's the where you are and what you're doing and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's like even things, and we'll get into the episode, but it was like, you know, the first one with Dean and Renee and Bree and Brian come over, and then it's like, oh, we're throwing Nikki into this, and it's just like, you know, you really think Nikki was like, oh, I'm just going to come over too? It's like, no, they went and they said, hey, you're going to come too, and Renee doesn't have, you know, but there's not enough beds. How are we going to deal with it? You know, and it's stuff like that, you know, which is they planned and
we can groan at it, but like, for me, like
something.
For me, it's like it's not about what they're creating; it's how well they are creating it. How well did they convey that story to us in a believable manner?
And also, as well, it might not be totally scripted. I think there must be some lines that they say, oh, you've got to try and get this in there or whatever, or certain things they want them to say and stuff like that. But I suppose we've skirted around it for a while, but let's get into season 6 because was...
Before you skirt around to the main point, that Mormon show you were talking about, what was it called again?
The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and apparently they got famous on TikTok, and they call themselves mom talkers, which I just don't know. Anyway, and then it turns out there was some sort of scandal. This is all before the show, you know, found them and decided to do a reality thing, and there was a big scandal because they all turned out to be swingers, and some of them drink. Oh my god! And then they decided to do a reality TV show.
So that's where the idea of soaking came from, right?
What's that?
Okay, right. I was about to say, I don't know what that is. No.
Did that also involve Kafka when he got kidnapped by the Mormon religion? And
No, none of that. They're all just these hot women who really don't want to be Mormons.
Yeah.
Do they live in Montauk in New York as well? Was that why they're
no, they live in Utah, of course.
Right.
I just looked up soaking. Okay. All right.
No. All right, Martin, carry on.
Yeah. Before Brandon gets us in trouble. So yeah, this was the only season 6, that Dean Ambrose featured on from 2016 to 2017. And Rennie had been on a few seasons before as a guest, and then she was sort of like main cast, sort of series 4 and 5. And other cast on this season was obviously the Bellas talked about. Daniel Bryan, Cena was in there, Miz and Maurice, etc., etc. And it does seem fairly wild now that, you know, Mox would even agree to go on a reality show. You know, Renee's done a couple of interviews where she's talked about, you know, them being approached to do it and her asking him to do it. And she said, you know, they were quite intentionally uncomfortable with acknowledging their relationship on TV. And she said she's not a private person, but he Mox very much is. So, it was difficult asking him to come on the show. And she has said, he was hesitant to do it at first, but then warmed up to it because he realized he'd be able to hang around with Daniel Bryan more, and it definitely opened his mind more to it. He was like, oh, if Bryan's doing it, then it can't be too bad. And
So is this show really the foundation of the BCC?
It must be. It must be.
Yeah.
I mean, what I wouldn't give to just have a reality show where we just follow Mox and Bryan around. I think that's that'd be fantastic. Put them in a load of different situations.
Didn't they do a ride along or whatever together on the WWE Network?
if only Cesaro was dating a diva at some point, that would have been.
Oh, you never know. You never know, Dickie.
Well, okay. Well, he wasn't on the show, Brandon.
He was. He made an appearance.
I didn't watch all of it, Brandon. I'm sorry I didn't watch 8 seasons of this show. I'm sorry.
Wait. This is when we get to the guts of the show. My favorite is just looking in the background and who's in catering, and you see
John Laurinaitis, yeah.
You see you see him, of course, but you see Zack Ryder. You see Baron Corbin with hair. Trying to fight the good fight before you let it go. And you see catering too. It's actually a thing. You see the actual spread. A lot of hot wings. I wonder how much Kali ate.
What did you think catering in WWE was fake? They all just didn't eat it or anything.
I thought it was just like a euphemism for something else or something. But,
I'm sorry, a what? A euphemism?
So Renee's also said that, they were told to act different, she was told to, make him look like a wild, crazy man, and she had to be bothered about it all the time, which obviously we'll get into as the episodes go on. Yeah, because he was, he was supposed to be the crazy guy in WWE and stuff, and they were like, you really need to lay into that. And Mox has spoken about his time on it only briefly. He did said that, being on the show, this was while he was still with WWE. He hasn't spoken about it since. He said being on the show was a lot of fun, and that they were just paying him to hang out with his girlfriend at the time and act like a goofball and drink margaritas, and he'd be an idiot not to say no to that. So other than that, he's never spoken about his experience again. So it would be interesting if someone asked him about it post
now.
WWE, I suppose.
Just while you're on that topic, though, Martin, because there's no passage in the book, but there is a passing line, and basically he said basically about how he's been given the opportunity to travel quite a lot, and he said he did a weird sound bath in a yurt in Sedona. That was some Total Divas bullshit, but still cool. Now I'm bringing this up because I didn't see that.
Yeah. So Bryan did an episode in a yurt with Brie. I don't know if that's maybe what he's referencing. The fact that would be something you would typically see in Total Divas rather than something he would actually do in his real life. But maybe that's what he means.
I guess, well, they were there and they just weren't shot or something, or.
No, I think he was there. I think there is an earlier series, or maybe series 5 or whatever, where Mox is like a background character. He just happens to be there while they're rolling it, sort of thing. He doesn't say anything, and I think they like zoom up to his face once, sort of thing.
So there you go. He has since leaving the WWE, he has mentioned it. He has said, "Total bullshit, but still cool." There you go.
It's weird. I remember I was working in Lakewood, New Jersey, and you see signs for yurts for sale. It looks like a tool shed, but it looks interesting though. Total vibes in there though. Respect. Go ahead, Martin.
I think you should get a yurt, Brandon, and let us know how that goes. But obviously, when the show aired, 2017, Mox was WWE champion towards the end of 2016, and obviously the feud with AJ Styles over the title. But Mox wasn't in the full series. He was just in episodes 5, 8, 10, 12, and then he appeared briefly in episode 15 as well. Wade, do you remember this season well before we forced you to watch it back for this show?
Yeah, I think I remember it quite loosely. Yeah, I mean, this one I remember having like pretty close attachment to things I was actually interested in the professional wrestling side of things because it covered Bryan Danielson's. I mean, this is the series as a whole. I think one of the featured, I would say, stories has been covering the retirement and comeback of Bryan Danielson. You know, you had a lot of through Bree's perspective, like the sort of a lot of the behind the scenes of what Bryan, you know, was going through, dealing with, I think, the mental health struggles of forced retirement and being okay with it. So this was a season that documented his comeback in the form of, first of all, the a commentator for the CWC, and then as the GM for SmackDown. It also heavily centered around the brand extension, which was reintroduced in this period of 2016, I believe, and how a lot of the cast was nervous about being split from their significant others. And then what else did we have? Yeah, some of those. And then what was it, like a wedding between Lana and Rusev? Like, so one of those things.
Yeah.
So I remember mainly, though, because of the wrestling attachments.
And his Fabio like hair.
Who?
Rusev, yeah. Rusev.
Oh, yes.
It's so weird watching him with that mane, man. Oh my
Man,
god.
you kind of look like Rusev right now, dude.
And Juice Robinson.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I
Oh,
love it.
that's full screen. Can we go
I
bigger?
saw-
Can we go full? Anyway, that's fine.
There we go. Juice. Well, it can be compared to worse Brandon, I suppose. Juice Robinson and Rusev. That's.
Oh, they got some hot chicks, man. Respect.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It is so bizarre seeing Daniel Bryan on a reality TV though, because it didn't strike me as he's the type of dude that does this stuff. But
Oh, none of these guys would be doing that. I mean, if they weren't employees
No.
of the company,
Right.
and if they weren't married to, you know, their wives, and you do get the sense like they are willing to do all this because they want to be supportive of you know, their spouses.
but
You
he's
get to
such a
hang out with their
natural
wives.
too, man. Like
Yeah, he is. He's
so
great
good.
on this show. He's one of the best people on the show, honestly.
it makes you love him even more, man. I can't tell you. He just exudes like positive vibes. I totally respect him totally.
Yeah, he does seem to be a total natural on this, especially sort of like you said, you wouldn't expect. Obviously, I was flicking through just trying to watch the Mox bits, but then there's little bits of Bryan thrown in there, and he does seem like a total natural on it. But on to episode 5, which is the first one Mox appears in, and Mox and Renee have just moved to Vegas, and Bree and Daniel Bryan decide to pay them a visit, and Mox and Renee's house here. Dickie, thoughts? I mean, big old house here. It looked fantastic, I thought.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's the life of being a WWE superstar, I guess. But I liked how Renee was just like, who the hell lives in Vegas? And it's kind of funny because I think back then, 2016, I guess this was, Las Vegas has really transformed into pretty much like, you know, it's not unusual. Definitely back then, you do kind of like, why would you live in Las Vegas? But now it's kind of more of a natural thing. Funny though, they don't live there anymore. So, you know, that's
Ohio, right?
I don't for a second
Cincinnati?
believe.
Outside of Cincinnati.
I don't for a second believe that oh, I guess they just moved in. Yeah, I guess it was like when Nikki, the whole Nikki thing, and then they were like, oh, well, we don't have, you know, I guess they had one more room.
That wasn't
would have
prepped.
been, yeah. So they would have had a 4-bedroom. So that would have been a 4-bedroom place. But yeah, no, very nice. And the pool
How
area.
much would it have been? How do you know, like, are you some sort of expert in like Las Vegas real estate of 2016?
No, I have no idea why Martin asked me this question.
He's
Oh,
on
okay.
Zillow. He's on Zillow looking up there.
Like, I was going to ask you, how much would a property be like this worth? But I guess you're not an expert.
I wasn't
live in
asking
Australia.
price. I was just
I
asking
live
what
in
he thought of the house.
I live in
okay.
Australia, so I don't know
Yeah.
what Las Vegas prices are.
All right.
Thanks, Martin.
They got to be outside of Vegas too. They couldn't live in Vegas.
Oh, clearly. Nobody lives on the strip, like,
No.
unless you, I don't know, work at a hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, or you're Howard Hughes or something. Yeah, but Bree and Daniel Bryan are coming over to visit. So Renee says she's happy to have a foursome, not sexual though. You dirty mind, Brandon. Mox is busy setting up the bar, and Bree asks if Nicole can come to stay as well, but Renee is unhappy. She hasn't got anything set up, as we already alluded to, and she asks Mox advice, but he just says, "Don't bring any negativity to the bar area, please. Just this is supposed to be a good time bar." And he says they've got whiskey. Everyone loves whiskey, and obviously, bit weird watching this now, especially considering everything that's happened, with Mox and everything. But
yeah, this whole thing, and it did make me kind of a bit uncomfortable. I mean, when through the work that I did previously for this show and the previous stuff, I even watched that shot of Brandy video with Moxley and Brandy Rhodes, where Brandy would host a new guest and they would make their favorite drinks and make some food and all that sort of stuff. It had obviously been taken down off of YouTube since, but I managed to kind of find it on the Wayback Machine. And so I've always had been a bit squeamish with him. Kind of, you can tell that he definitely has a relationship with alcohol more so than other people. And all throughout these episodes that we'll talk about, it seems to be a thing.
Isn't it an interesting thing about alcohol in that, like, it's almost celebrated how, like, oh, look at this quirky guy. He loves to drink. He loves to get drunk. It's just like, this is fun. Meanwhile, it's like one of the most addictive, substances that you can put into your body.
And look, I'll say, look at this non-alc. You see this? I am drinking a non-alcoholic beer, which started to like after kind of all the Moxley stuff and him drinking non-alcoholic beer. So
that's the main like touchstones of reality TV, right? Let's get alcohol involved so that we can loosen our subjects up, right?
Yeah,
so.
I mean 100%, and I think it's also something that other people can relate to as well. That's another thing. So,
and also it's
just like me.
It's Vegas, isn't it? So they're all like, yeah, party, we're in Vegas and everything. Because Nicole arrives and they say Nicole likes champagne. So Renee races out to buy some champagne. And, I usually try to accommodate people that come to my house, but this is like fucking next level. This. So we've got some stuff in the fridge. Yeah.
Wait. Did you just watch the Moxley parts? Because I watched the whole episode.
Oh, I only watched the Moxley parts. I'm not watching the whole thing.
You know when I said you could watch it in an hour by skipping through just to watch the Moxley parts. That was that bit, Brandon.
Yeah, I was like, how am I going to watch this in an hour? It's like 45 minutes an episode.
There's like, when you scroll down on the network, it says like +5 or 15 or whatever. Yeah, that one.
We don't have the network, but
we didn't talk about Rusev talking about Russian history and stuff like that.
Yeah, why would we do that on a Jon Moxley podcast, you madman?
There will be an extended on the Poison Runner Patreon. Brandon will review the entire season.
I thought Lana looked incredible in this run.
Not now. After, we'll do it at the end.
Yeah,
we'll do the review at the end.
Okay, fair enough.
So later on, all 5 of them are driving around Vegas, and we found out that Renee thought The Martian with Matt Damon was based on a true story.
Oh my god! I call as the kids say, I call cap on that. Come on, dude. Come on.
Well, no, and then the next thing that was said was even more ridiculous. You call cap on that as well?
Absolutely, man. I just like the weather dominator be controlling the weather in Florida. I call cap on that, kid. Come on.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you think Nikki Bella really believes Harry Potter was based on a true story?
All reality show driven fabrication. Come on.
If it is, then I would say it's a bit of a long con that they've managed to uphold, because I mean the Bellas just, I mean, even like on their podcast, like the sort of ditziness of the two of them is almost like a feature now. Like they got this thing called Bella Brains where like the two of them have the most trouble, like this is on their podcast, where like they have the most trouble ever answering the simplest of questions. And you have Bryan Danielson, one of the smartest people I think in this space, laughing at them basically for all of their ridiculous answers. Like you kind of saw a glimpse of in this particular scene, where they were he was laughing at Nicole thinking that Harry Potter is real.
We didn't get the story though, because she said, "Oh, well, it's even worse because she thinks Harry Potter's real," and then it cuts off, and we never hear the story about why she thinks Harry Potter's real. But anyway, they're in the car for a reason. They're heading to a place where you can race ATVs and monster trucks. Have you? I imagine this is the sort of thing you've done in your pastime, Brandon.
I've done the ATV races in the Poconos. That's pretty fun. Pretty fun stuff. The monster trucks, nah, I never done that. But yeah, going on an ATV, going around the countryside and the mountains of the Poconos is Mount Pocono. It's a good time. It's a good bonding experience too, especially if you drink.
This is a reality TV producer's dream.
Oh, no doubt about it.
To just but just like people in Las Vegas, there is no shortage of weird, unique, dumb shit that you can do that maybe no one has really ever seen before.
You can shoot a tank out there.
If you told me anything you could do out there, I would just have to believe you.
Well, we're all going to find out in April, aren't we? We're all off to Vegas, so yeah, let's go shoot a tank, drive a ATV and some monster trucks. Let's do it. Yeah, I'm well up for that. Shooting a fucking tank. Why would anyone want to do that? Anyway, Nicole can't take part because of a neck injury, and she just kind of phones her mother and has a couple of G&Ts, I think, and some kind of harm.
Which is I think like pretty good almost foreshadowing or hinting at her story later on in the season, which is her comeback from her significant neck injury.
Right. Okay. Oh, is this they also covered that in that series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
This season, yeah.
Right. So back at the house, Renee's doing a barbecue for everyone, and she's freaking out. She does it like pretty much every scene in this fucking thing. She's barbecuing shrimps, but padron peppers by the looks of it. And then she's trying to fucking a whole salmon. I mean, it just obviously falls apart on the grill. I mean, Dickie, you're in the home of barbecuing seafood. Would you recommend? Would you recommend cooking a whole salmon on a barbecue? It seems a bit extreme.
Like right on the grill?
Yeah.
Huh.
Right. So look, another strange throw to me. Thank you, Martin. I don't actually have a barbecue yet. I know I'm Australian, shrimp on the barbecue. I get it. I get it. But I do have something. Okay, look. So she says she looked up how to barbecue a whole salmon on Pinterest. I was like, what? Why? I know this was 2016, but did people look up recipes on Pinterest? I thought it was just a photo board thing. But anyway,
but it links to recipes, right?
Okay, sure. I really don't even remember. Like I remember using it in like 2004 or something. Like I don't. Anyway,
you can also hook up.
Then it occurred to me, this woman has a recipe book now that you can buy. What is going on?
Right. I don't doubt that she's a very good cook, but not everybody is well versed in every single tool. Maybe she's somewhat new to the barbecue at that time, or salmon on the barbecue. How would you do this? What's the right way of barbecuing a whole salmon fillet? Should you barbecue a whole salmon fillet, or should
no? I wouldn't. I'd cut it up. Yeah, cut it up into little sort of like strips and stuff and do it that way. Because you're gonna have to do it after you've cooked it anyway, so you might as well just cut it up in strips anyway.
So you could cook evenly.
You gotta season it proper too. Absolutely.
Right.
Well, wouldn't you just cook it on like the hot pan, like the pan instead of the grill bits? Because the grill bits is why it falls apart.
Or wrap it up like in tinfoil, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I would like smoke it or something, or I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't have these things yet.
Actually, you do.
I spend too much money on renovating this house. I can't afford to buy a smoker.
How long is this podcast going to be, guys?
As long as Renee keeps cooking,
we're like halfway through the first episode. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 episodes.
To be fair, nothing happens in episode 8, so I don't even know why it's on the thing. But
let's continue with the barbecue discussion then.
Either, right? He's via a phone. He looks like that picture. By the way, you ever been on a Carnival cruise and you ever go to your room and then it's the towel that's like an animal pet with the glasses? Reminds me of him, Moxley, in that picture. But anyway,
I've no idea what you're talking about. But oh well.
Martin, a cruise will be right up your alley. But continue.
No. Anyway. So yeah, Renee's dropping plates, freaking out. Everyone's just chilling. Mox looks like the least helpful husband ever. He's just had a few drinks and he sort of sat there laughing and everything. So yeah, poor old Renee. I felt really sorry for her in this scene. So the day after, Brie and Renee are trying to hang a rug on the wall. It's way too big. Rugs on the wall. I mean, shouldn't they really go on the floor? But the dog's pissing all over the floor. Brie's saying, "You need to chill out, Renee," and then Brie takes Renee to the hotel Nicole stayed at because she was like, I'm not staying at this house. It's too chaotic. I'm going to go and stay in a hotel. They just have some couple of drinks by the pool, and then that's it for the first episode. And my main takeaway is that they made Renee just look very neurotic. Like they're just trying to make her seem really neurotic, and they seem on total different wavelengths. And I think they're trying to make he's all chilled and she's stressing out about everything. And I don't think that's quite a good insight into the relationship because, like I noted in the interview she's done at the start, she said she was uncomfortable because they were forcing him to go down this path.
Yeah. I guess I don't know Renee well enough to be able to say like whether or not this is true to her character, but it certainly is her character throughout this particular season. She seems very much like an A-type personality, the type that like has to have everything perfect if she's about to host, and therefore like you get the sense she might not even actually be there to enjoy the hosting. She because she's so consumed with making sure that everything is perfect. And I thought the storyline showcased that really well, by putting in Nikki unexpectedly. Like you would just think if it was Moxley doing the hosting, he'd probably just be like, yeah, drop by, sure, whatever. Whereas Renee looks at it as almost a burden to the point where she'd kind of be more comfortable if Nikki wasn't there. I'd rather not have fun with you because it can't be perfect. And it's a very interesting character trait. It's a character flaw that is showcased repeatedly, I would say, throughout the season.
I thought she looked the best in this episode, and I could actually buy this as just this is who she is, kind of thing. I found it a little less believable in the later episodes. The middle one, episode 10, was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So on to episode 8, and we see Mox and Renee in their pool, and this is obviously when Mox is WWE champion, so Renee says he's busy all the time, when they're home, he just wants to chill out and use their steam room. They've got a steam room in their house, which is fantastic. And so the plan is Renee, Mox, Brie, and Daniel Bryan are going to go to the Orcas Island, an island in Washington State, apparently. It looks beautiful when you eventually see it on here. But Mox says he just wants to stay home, and Renee says, it's always him just doing what he wants all the time. He's on the road all the time. Renee thinks he would love it at that house in Washington State. There's deer roaming free, And later, while she's at the house, he does a video call with her, and she says they need to do more traveling. Mox needs to see more stuff. And Mox is like, more traveling? And she's like, no, I don't mean for wrestling. I mean for just me and you sort of thing. And, they need more relaxed traveling. And Mox says, I've got a surprise. We're going to go to Big Sur. And one thing that I did start noticing in this episode is that all the other divas sort of like refer to their partners by their real names, but yet she's still calling him Dean, which I thought was really weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about it is I feel like throughout the series they kind of went back and forth. Like at some point in the series there was sort of a change in direction, and like certain wrestlers would actually be identified by their real names. Like, because isn't Brian called Brian in the show and not Daniel?
Yeah, the little bits I watch, Brie calls him Brian all the time.
Right, and Jimmy Uso is called John, and Trinity's called Trinity. And I don't know at what point that changed. It might have been the first season where they were called their stage names, and then at some point they changed to their real life names. When it comes to like Dean and John, I don't know. I can't really tell you what direction they were given.
It must have been awkward for her, because obviously she must call him John and stuff when they're in private and at home and stuff like that. So to be calling him Dean must have been a bit.
Although you could imagine backstage, like probably people would know him more as Dean. rather than John, because there are probably so many Johns.
Yeah, probably. So, not much, like Dick said, not a great deal happens in that one. Episode 10, this is the big one. This is where...
So what? That's it. We're not going to talk about anything else. You guys spent time watching the show, so what do you have to say about it?
I mean, look, to be honest, I don't think I really did watch episode 8 because he was on a camera phone, and that was about the extent of Jon Moxley on that. And I was like, thanks, Martin. At least
the entire story,
the
it's more so from the perspective of Renee and how Renee is joining Brie and Brian on this like couples trip. She's feeling like she's the third wheel because Moxley clearly did not want to participate. This is, of course, also during the time when he's WWE champion, and that I guess you could assume comes with other obligations. And this is Moxley just kind of being an unwilling participant, not just in the show, but just like to Renee doing something fun as a couple. And throughout the episode, you kind of see Renee's sort of like longing and maybe loneliness, especially with Brie and Brian trying to conceive, and Renee is just kind of there. And it ends with Moxley wearing sunglasses, and you almost get the sense like Moxley is very much, I don't know, just like this guy wearing sunglasses and is like he's the dude, right? He surprises Renee with a trip to Big Sur, and that is our resolution. The fact that like, oh, he does care enough, I suppose. They're a very interesting couple, and yeah, this one doesn't really showcase that much, but
it was just like I know then. It was just background really for like future episodes. Like otherwise, why would they be in Big Sur and things like that in future episodes? So it's not like really. It was just background for that basically, because the big one is the next. Sorry, Brandon.
It's amazing how much free time they got too. Like I thought at that time they were working a rigorous road schedule and stuff like that. But
I don't think this is classified as free time. I think this is also work.
Like Moxley.
Like
the Miz and the Marine 6.
Well, this kind of still goes back to kind of like what Wai and I were talking about before. It's kind of like, is this real, or is this kind of like, hey, we are going to send you to Tacoma? Not Tacoma. Where were they? Lake Tahoe. No, I'm just talking about something else. Like, we're just going to send you to Lake Tahoe. You're not actually planning that trip. That's not something that you were doing. We're sending you there because we need to film an episode. Like, is that work or is that not? Kind of thing. So he's either wrestling or he's doing Total Divas. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't think he really gets any time off.
Well, that's the thing, because you watch this outside looking in, and you're like, wow, they're always going on about they never spend any time together, but they're going on holiday all the time. They're going to Toronto for Renee's birthday, they're going to Lake Tahoe. But then obviously you read an interview with Renee, and she's like, yeah, obviously you're going on these holidays that aren't holidays, like, what, Dickie, because you're working. It's for the show. You're not doing it, as a couple. You're just doing it for the show, getting paid for the show. So
what about Maurice getting a gun? Is that considered a holiday? Because it'd be kind of embarrassing breaking into her home and getting shot by Maurice. I mean, you trust her with a gun? It looked like she only had a day of training, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy a gun."
It's America. It's America, Brandon. I don't trust anybody in your country with a gun. I don't.
So episode 10, and this is the big one. This is the one that always gets gift and stuff like that. It's because it's Renee's birthday week. So Aaron Mox are off to Toronto, but Renee's nervous again because she hasn't been home in forever, and people tend to think Dean is a crazy person, but he does have a super sweet side to him. So like I said before, the scriptwriters really want, Renee to seem neurotic, and Mox is a bit of a maniac. And Natalia tells Renee she's got to find a happy medium between Prince William and Sasquatch. So that was a hell of a... I've never heard those two people mixed up before, but yeah.
Well, he ended up losing his hair like Prince William. I guess he
was doing a good fight with that hair during this episode too, man. My goodness.
Yeah, you got to maybe get a bit of a glimpse into how sensitive Jon Moxley is with his hair.
Oh yeah.
Like Renee repeatedly tries to like fix it for him, and he does this sort of like, hey, don't touch me, like type of thing. And he was definitely holding on to it by that point. In hindsight, way too long. He really should.
I wrote here, Dean won't fix his hair, which is probably why it left him. Is that the same with
Yeah.
you, Martin? Is that why
He's,
yours left?
No, mate. I just when it was going, I was just like, right, I'll shave it off, and that was it.
Ah, no, that makes
This
sense.
Smash Boss, yeah. I do love Renee's jacket. She seems to wear the same jacket in these on the interviews to camera and stuff. She's got like a load of little patches on it and stuff like that. I thought that was a fantastic jacket she's rocking.
What did you think of Moxley giving Mrs. Paquette a Molson 67? I'm like, I mean, he would have won her over completely if he got her some steam whistle, right, Wai? Or the Keith,
perhaps, or the what?
or the Keith, Alexander Keith Dale.
Yeah, I guess so. But in Toronto, there are way better options than even any of those. I'm guessing Moxley, like, I don't know if he chose the beer or if the producers chose the beer, but they probably just wanted something to signify, hey, we're in Canada. Let's get the most Canadian beer we could think of. The
It's
shittiest
awful too. The
Canadian
worst
beer.
stuff.
Yeah.
What, the one that's just called Canadian? Is that what
Yeah.
they were drinking? I missed that, right? Of course they were.
Have
I mean,
you guys-
that is available all around Toronto, isn't it? Everywhere you go, they've just got that on tap.
Nobody gets Canadian though. Nobody. Like, can
Yeah.
you guys get Canadian where you guys live? Like, is that?
I don't
They got-
know.
They got the jelly. What's a jelly?
Jelly King.
I drank it. It's a Toronto-based beer, but
Jelly King.
Jelly King. They got
Okay.
Jelly King out here now, in some
interesting.
Now's locations out in Jersey. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But like
I wish they
nobody
would.
buys Canadian, at least in Toronto.
I introduced it to my brother. He loved it.
Really?
Shout out Jelly King.
Oh, the Jelly King. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. It's like Canadian's like the sort of Canadian version of like Carlin that we have, or Foster's that you probably have in Australia, Dickie.
Sure.
You know,
No,
nobody
there's
drinks
no
it.
such thing as Foster's in Australia. It's not an Australian beer, mate. It's a British beer.
Steve Whistle's good,
Anyway.
man. I respect it.
Oh yeah, I like Steam Whistle. Yeah.
Yeah, they really helped me out. We did a tour of that, and I was going to Braden and Davies, and because of the weird licensing laws in Toronto, I couldn't find a place to buy a 6-pack of beer, so I was like, I'll just buy one in here. So
Oh, you know what? Now
really
you can
helped me
buy it
out.
anywhere. You can buy it at gas stations here now. We just
Oh,
changed
amazing.
our laws. Yeah.
Jeez. You do all sorts of stuff there now. Smoke weed, buy beer wherever
Yeah.
you want. Ridiculous.
so
Shoot a
So-
tank.
yep.
Shoot.
Then go right to the hospital, get your free healthcare. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So we are in Toronto. Mox says he won't drive in Canada. Renee says he should try it as it'll get him ready for when they eventually move to Toronto. And Mox says he isn't happy. He says if the US eventually gets taken over by aliens, then maybe he would move to Vancouver. I mean, what a diss on your country where you must have been reeling from that. He won't even move to Toronto. It's
A
gotta
diss
be
on my city, not my country. He said
Yeah,
he'd be willing
yeah.
to move to Vancouver, and I don't disagree. I ask
What?
myself why anybody would live here. You know, if you had to commute, like I'm thankful that I do a job where I don't have to drive through the city every day, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. Public transit always like has some issue going on with it. So I totally don't disagree with Mox's assessment.
It's
Wow.
a wonderful place to visit, but yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
can
You
imagine.
gotta
Without
live
a car.
You got to live in Etobicoke, though, right?
Vaughn, Acton.
Assuming these are other areas of the Greater Ontario region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like real estate is just ridiculous here. It's expensive to rent. It's expensive really to do much of anything, and driving sucks. So why would you live here? There are a lot of great reasons, but if you had your pick, like a Jon Moxley, I don't know if I'd choose this.
Well,
So-
ironically, he was wearing a Cincinnati Bengals hat during this conversation, which is an absolutely amazing foreshadow to where they eventually did move to.
Absolutely. Good call.
So Renee says, lose the attitude before we meet my whole Canadian family. And,
Stop being yourself before you meet my family. Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's the one.
Now, this
Mox
isn't the
is-
first time they're meeting, right? Like, I don't get the sense
No.
it's a first introduction. Like, they're way
Well,
too friendly with each other.
They had said that he had met them at shows and
got it.
stuff. So,
Got it.
but it was like more of a passing of that. But this was apparently the first time
They've hung
going
out.
to Canada, meeting and like going to dinner and spending time and all that sort of stuff.
They seem like
Okay.
reasonably nice people. Mrs. Paquette sounds like a party.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It's like Renee was adopted or something. I don't know. Like, she's not, like, well, in the show, like she's Yeah. Anyway, keep going, Martin, because this is obviously like I have this huge gripes with this. You know.
So they're staying at what I'm assuming is an Airbnb, and Renee accuses Mox of not showering. He says he's been up for hours. He's already ordered sushi. I didn't have Mox down as a sushi guy, but here we are. And Renee's freaking out. Their mum, he's going to think he's a big scruff, but John says it's fine. There'll be one big Canadian happy family eating poutine. Carol, Renee's mum, arrives. Mox greets her at the door and gives her a big bouquet of flowers and a bottle of beer, because of course he does. I didn't quite catch the beer. Perhaps it was a bottle of that Canadian beer you were talking about.
That's what we were talking about. Yeah, the Canadian beer. Yeah.
So he obviously goes to the cheesy lines, didn't know we were meeting your big sister. Oh, Mox, what a guy. And
it's so awkward, but then I realize he's trying to make it sound so cheesy and awkward. He's doing it on purpose, and it is quite funny.
And Renee's mum says they should hit the beaches of Toronto. I didn't realize Toronto was famous for its beaches, Way.
It's not. Dude, if you like sewage water,
Benno told me there was that one near the airport that he really liked.
Yeah, what about that island near the airport?
Oh, like Billy Bishop. I mean, I don't know if it's known for its beach as much as like it's known for. I think just being an interesting island, I guess. Yeah, I don't think Toronto's known for its beach, at least not compared to many other parts of the world. It's a beach,
There's a nice like beach going into Toronto though. Like I remember driving in, like after you cross the bridge, like there's some nice beaches and stuff off the.
Okay. Yeah. I hate to sound like I would enjoy it like if you just want to like lay down on a patch of sand, but I wouldn't go in the water.
Just enough for Carol anyway. And Mox asks Carol if she bungee jump off the side of the CN Tower, and Rennie says they wouldn't do that, and Mox says he basically jumps off things for a living, so why not jump off the CN Tower as well?
I don't know if you can bungee jump. Like I know you can edge walk. That's a popular thing people do, but I don't know if bungee jumping was actually available. Let me look this up.
Perhaps he was confused.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bungee jumping. I think it's just the edge walk. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably it'd be too high, I think, to bungee off something like that, really.
And then we see that this woman should absolutely not be bungee jumping or tying anything to anything related to her foot.
Yeah, bungee jumping off the CN Tower would be insane. Like,
I mean, you can bungee jump off the Sky Tower in Auckland, New Zealand, which is not as tall, but it is of the same type of like needle structure kind of thing.
That's insane, dude.
It's not an unusual thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I just think about like the liability attached to it. I think they would shut down the entire CN Tower if like anything were to happen.
A bit more relaxed in New Zealand, isn't it, Dickie?
I guess so. Yeah, no one gives a fuck, just...
So obviously, they point out that Carol's got a foot support on, and they all laugh as she takes it off. She's got a surgery scar on the lower leg. Haha, you had surgery, and her foot's all swelled up, and she's, she makes Mox feel it. Like Wai noted earlier. I'm assuming they already met at this point because it's feel my foot, Moxley. I've had a surgery on it, but
I mean, this just shows that, like, they're getting on fine. They're getting on like when you meet your parents-in-law or family-in-law for the first time. Like, I mean, really, the only thing is that you're just all like having a good time, But Renee's all like, "No, you're having too much of a good time. Stop it.
Yeah,
reel it back in." What? It's
like
weird.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sense that her mom's vibe matched really well with Mox's, and Renee maybe in her mind has more of an idea of like what I don't know, a typical formal meeting might be with a parent.
Yeah, because I mean, when they get out of the cab, when they're going to some food, like Carol lets a fart out, and she seems a bit more sort of like relaxed around everybody than sort of Renee, and Renee's like, "Oh my god." And obviously at the restaurant we meet Renee's dad, Stephen, who apparently only eats lasagna. That's the only information we get from that, because they're looking at the menu, and And Renee says something about, oh yeah, they don't have lasagna on here, and I'm like, oh, does he only eat lasagna or something? I don't know.
I like how you say lasagna.
Lasagna, yeah.
Is that the Italian way of saying it?
You should ask him to say Oklahoma.
Yeah,
You make it sound
Oklahoma.
like he's a right back for Manchester United.
How do you say lasagna, Brandon?
Lasagna.
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 Yeah, lasagna. I'm sure Italians pronounce it far differently, but that's how I pronounce it in England. Obviously, a brother's there, Eric, and his wife Katie as well. They don't really get much screen time. They're just sort of like hanging out and eating. And this is the famous scene. Some guy randomly reaches over the bushes, takes Renee's hat off her head. Mox dives over the bushes, catches up with these guys, and gets the hat back. And there's a big commotion as Mox looks ready to fucking kill this guy. And he's like, say I'm a drunk arsehole and apologize. And the guy does after mouthing off for him a bit. And
yeah, classic scene. Really, the most notable thing that I think Renee and Moxley are attached to when it comes to Total Divas, a random man going to a flock at 97 Harbord Street, reaching through the bushes and putting a hat on and running away with it, only to be chased down by Dean Ambrose along Harbord Street. Before he
the WWE champion Dean Ambrose.
Yeah,
imagine
that story. Yeah. Hey, I was walking along Harbord and I decided to take this random woman's hat. You know, I see some TV cameras, and then I ended up being chased down by the WWE champion. Incredible.
That wasn't the one off. So that was the one off Adelaide. That place, right? That establishment.
It's a bit further north, close off below.
Brandon's just trying to.
So did you guys tell me? Do you guys believe this scene actually?
I was going to ask that actually. Wait, there was the only thing in the show that wasn't the stage because like they blur his face out and everything. Or perhaps they were doing that to make it a bit more realistic. But they do that thing that they're doing, you know, to make it look real, like the cameras all over the shop and stuff. But it just seems, yeah. But then I suppose they're trying to make out that Mox, you know, he's a bit crazy and he's a bit of a psycho. But he genuinely looks like he wants to kill this guy.
Brandon.
Well, what local indie talent was the one that ripped the hat off? Or could have been Chris Amon.
Who? The
WWE doctor Chris Amon.
Why?
Why would he be doing that?
Okay, whatever.
Hey man, you gotta work on in that era of WWE.
So in terms of just like interest, like this was the most interesting thing that I think happened on this entire episode. And seeing Mox's reaction to it. Now, that would be maybe one of the reasons why I would consider it like maybe staged. I would also ask though, why, if it was staged, would they not have shown more of the chase and the actual like confrontation? Like of like you know, if it was staged, wouldn't they have been able, like, you would expect them to have shown more of like Moxley actually getting him and stopping him perhaps as footage. Instead, we just kind of cut to, you know, the end of it.
I also thought they had a really great explanation as to why this individual did this, which to me, I thought, I don't know, like if it was staged, I feel like they wouldn't have kind of come up with the fourth wall. Yeah, you know, but basically just said, you know, this drunk guy saw a bunch of cameras, which you would, right? Like that's totally
I wouldn't.
Believable.
I've been drunk. I've never felt compelled to, you know, harass somebody by stealing their hat.
Man,
I mean, you would, you could totally believe that some drunk idiot would, like, be attracted to this scenario as opposed to something else that's happening.
Yeah,
you know,
but it was daytime. Like these were day drinkers.
Yeah.
Is that but it's Canada, right? Like, I mean, you know.
Day drinkers.
I'm trying to be like Brandon. Like, you know, they were heading to Young.
When I day drank in Toronto, I was pretty chill, mellow. You know, just enjoying the scenes and just walking around.
You want to steal any hats or anything?
No, man. I just saw a lot of homeless people. I was shocked by that. But
so, follow-up question: what would each of you have done in a similar situation if your spouse's hat was stolen in front of their family while you're sitting there?
Absolutely, I would have run after him and got it back. Massive sign of disrespect, that. You don't fucking steal my wife's hat or your girlfriend at the time.
What if Maurice had a gun and they took the hat?
How about you, Brandon or Dickie? What would you guys have done?
Well, famously on my first date with my Mrs. Dickey, she actually did wear a hat like that, which I later told her that I did not like. She doesn't suit. So if someone stole it, I just would have been like, oh, well, guess that's that hat gone. But I don't feel like Dean's reaction was an overreaction at all.
No, I didn't think so either.
I mean, if it got me, extra benefits after the date, I mean, totally would have been a hero and take.
Sure, but clearly it wouldn't have with Renee. She was not happy.
Right.
Yeah.
What a gentleman you are, Brandon.
You can always be a diplomat after the fact, and say, look, hey, babe, man, I thought you were in danger. I had to leap into action, get that hat back, man. Love that fedora you got.
Yeah, that's what I don't
Brandon's
really
all these
understand.
lines here, isn't it? Brandon's lines are coming out here that he uses down at the bars in Jersey. Hey, baby. What about you, Wai? I mean, obviously you've got a bit of a rep as being a more chilled out, laid back guy. Would you be jumping over bushes?
I would like to think like my sort of protector would awaken, and that I would jump over these bushes like a Jon Moxley and chase this dude down Harvard Street to get my wife's hat back. But in the moment, I would think like maybe I would assess like whether or not like my wife was actually in danger, and whether or not abandoning her would pose any like further risk, and then I'd probably consider like doing something after that. So.
I suppose he wasn't abandoning her, was he? A family were all there, like a dad's there and everything. They were protecting male there and a brother and everything. So I suppose.
I'd also assess like maybe the danger of like whether or not this was like a dude with a weapon or something. And I guess in Canada, I guess you could feel a bit safer about that. But like people still have weapons. You never know. Is a hat worth it? Maybe it's more about an issue of pride at that point.
Wait, would you have pressed charges and alerted the RMPC?
RCMP, you mean?
The
RCMP?
The Royal Mounted Police.
Right.
When a Mountie have arrived, yeah.
Yeah, sure, with the shock stick and everything.
I'm so glad we got Wai on for this, just so Brandon could ask him these questions.
Yeah.
So we'll cut through that, but I did want to.
Just a couple things real quick on that episode. I mean, Nikki Bella, her neck issue also important. Her doctor was not Chicago White Sox second baseman Juan Uribe, but a regular Juan Uribe, and then she got cleared. Totally important. And also, like, you can see the seeds, but I don't think Lana and Rusev's marriage was I think it was pretty doomed, like with the car and whatnot. You can see fractions and stuff like that. I mean, to future.
So he had a couple cars. He had didn't he have like a Maserati, and then what did he buy afterwards?
A Lamborghini.
Yeah, he bought a Lambo and a Maserati. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm sure like he made good money. Did he make that good money to be able to buy two of these luxury cars?
I mean, you're supposed to save it, right? You're supposed to save that money, right?
Maybe
how much are these cars?
Maybe he's got business dealings in Bulgaria with the government smuggling weapons and stuff.
God, I guess so. But I mean, I don't know. Do you think he still has these cars now? I'm sure Tony Khan's paying him decently, but is he paying him Maserati, Lamborghini money?
That's right. He's still hired by AEW, isn't he? I thought he was unemployed for a second.
He's going through a divorce, I believe, or something like that.
So he's only got one of those cars now, I guess.
Maybe half a car even.
Hey, Lana was in the Surreal Life reunion show too. So
is that right? Yeah, there were several couples featured on the show that are no longer couples. So Cena and Nikki was one of them. Yeah. What else on the season?
Paige Alberto Del Rio.
That's right. Yes. Ooh. Yeah.
Hey, Paige looked terrific too, man. I know she went through her struggles and whatnot, but she looked great in the show. I respect her.
And look at her boyfriend now. She knows how to pick him, doesn't she, Paige? Anyway, but what I did love about when Mox comes back to the table and Renee's like, "Oh my God, you can't be doing that in front of my family." He just sits down back at the table and he goes, have you guys ever been to Buc-ee's? And they're like, no, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's the best gas station in Texas. And I was like, what? That's such a... just to style it out. Renee obviously wants to go home, but Mox and Carol, they're like, nah, we're going to go and do shots, forget you. And Renee meets up with them. And no, this is even before that, Brandon. He says they're going to get a tattoo. And Renee, the killjoy, says, let's all go home. And Mox, says he wants to teach Carol human frogger and starts walking into a busy road. And Renee pulls him back. Has anyone heard of human frogger in a road?
No.
Well,
But,
I mean,
self-explanatory.
makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he is a deathmatch veteran, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The cars don't drive very fast in the city, so I don't. It's probably you're not really going to get hit, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
my!
more worried about the trams.
I remember one time we were walking to the show, the AEW show, at the what's the where the Marleys play it? Where the Marleys play it?
Coca-Cola. Yeah.
Yes, we're walking there, and this truck guy cut this woman off. He jumps out of his truck. Now, normally, if this was in Jersey, like there would be a fist fight or something like that. This guy jumps out of his vehicle and says, "I'm sorry." I was like, "Wow, man, yo, you guys are very polite." I was like, "Wow, this guy's great, awesome." And then they carried on about their day. I was so shocked by the kindness of drivers out there in Toronto.
Man, I don't know, man. I don't see that all the time.
This was a long time ago. I think time has evolved, and I think everybody's a jerk off driver.
It was 2 years ago, Brandon. But anyway,
right.
People have evolved. Yeah, they've all got nastier in Canada since then. 2 years. Next day, we've got to talk about this place, Horseshoe Tavern, a regular haunt of Davey Portman. I was asking him about this, and he was like, "Yeah, it's I've got a friend who works there." And Mox and Carol are getting pissed up again, and Ray isn't happy, and she says you need to reel things back in. Carol says she's just being mean, and that Mox has been noble, getting her hat back, and Renee got to stop being the fun police. People won't want her to be around if she's just a fun police all the time. And they intercut this with Mox arsing about on a public bench, waving to people as they're walking past. And back at the house, Renee's giving Mox a back scratch, and she says, I'm not trying to change you. I apologize for being uptight. And Mox says it's all cool. And, it's good that him and her mum are best friends. So it was I felt like watching an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air watching this episode, because it's kind of like all this drama goes on and then there's a lesson at the end. Don't try to change people, Brandon.
I'm sorry, man. That dad joke was hilarious in the chat. Jaywalking.
We're just having a chat with Karen.
Shout out Karen Peterson in the chat. Obviously, we're glad survived the storm over there in Florida and everything. She said that human frogger is jaywalking, so there you go.
And I responded with, in Canada, that would be blue jaywalking.
Boom, boom.
And that is the joke that set Brandon off. Brandon, when you have a laughing fit and you turn your camera off, we can still hear you. Just so
I apologize.
No, it's fine. I'm just letting you know because you obviously didn't realize. But anyway, look, that theme that you said with the lesson at the end. I mean, the same thing happened in the next episode with these two as well, with trying to be too fancy and all this sort of stuff. I guess that's just kind of the way that you kind of need. That's kind of the scripted element of these things, is that you do need. Like every story needs to have like a resolution or like an end kind of thing, a conclusion. It can't just be like, that's it, it's done sort of thing. So, that's why I kind of think a lot of this, like how she was acting, she was told to be like this. That's my feeling. As Wai said, like we don't know what she's actually like. But like the funniest
she's
part
confirmed it in interviews. She's confirmed that it was uncomfortable for her because they were asking her to act a certain way and act with Moxley a certain way.
Sure, yeah. This one was way too much. Like the funniest part for me though was when the mother, she was like, "Oh, he's just like drinking and just like doing shots and da da da," and then the mother's just like, "But I do that," and then Renee's like, "Yeah, I know, but I don't," and it's just like. What are we doing here? Like, Renee, you're clearly the odd one out. Join the party. You know, that's all that I kept thinking. It's just like, have fun with everyone else. What's going on?
Because at the end of the episode, I feel like you got more of what Renee's actually like, because she seems to chill out. They have a birthday party at the house, you know, they have shots and cake, and she's more relaxed. You know, Mox even buys her some nunchucks as a present. I mean, only Mox could do that for his future wife. But that I felt like at the party at the end, that seemed to be more what, you know, Renee's like when she's with the family and Mox, rather than worrying about what Mox is going to be like all the time.
Yeah. Well, I felt that way more about Jon Moxley on the show because if he wasn't characterized as this like lunatic fringe character during this WWE run, would we have still had this same Jon Moxley on Total Divas? You know, I almost got the sense that they were using on Total Divas, they were basing what his role was going to be based off of what his role was in the WWE at the time. Compared to maybe the Jon Moxley of today, who's not really this, like, he's wild, but in a very controlled, violent, aggressive way. More dark and mysterious than his WWE sort of like, here's this like weird guy who's really he's kind of funny. Look at him. He wears a hat. He wears a gas mask. He's totally unpredictable.
Wacky.
He's wacky, exactly. Like, and this Total Divas character is that wacky Jon Moxley, kind of, you know, taken up to 12, right? If there was an AEW version, or if he played his current BCC Jon Moxley version right now in the WWE, how would his Total Divas representation have been like? You know?
Well, I mean, he would have stabbed that guy who stole the hat, wouldn't he? I mean, that would have happened.
He would have skinned him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, obviously another lesson learned for Renee.
I found Moxley really annoying, to be honest, on this one. Like, I don't think I'd be able to stand it, you know, being at a table with him that long.
Especially when he was outside playing drums on that bench and all that stuff, and just getting people and just annoying people who were trying to go about the day. Yeah, he was a bit annoying in this one.
How dare you, Wai? This is a Jon Moxley podcast. We just
You must love every single thing that he's a part of.
Yeah. He's our special little guy.
So we have sort of similar on the next episode, because they're in Lake Tahoe now on episode 12. You know, they never get, Renee's like, we never get time to go on vacation. They take the dog with them. They're in a great house on the water. And Moxie's like, I want to go wakeboarding. And Renee's like, no, I wanted more of a romantic weekend. And she phones Nikki, because Mox, even at this point, is like, you're hanging around with the Bellas too much, and you're becoming a bit too different for me. And she phones Nikki Bella, and she's like, oh, why don't you just like put some sexy like Daisy Duke shorts on, you know, that kind of accidental sexy. And that doesn't work, because she goes downstairs and Mox is like, got some pizza and beer, and we discover that Renee's favorite pizza is Hawaiian. Do we think that was a work or a shoot, Brandon? Here, do you think that was scripted for her? Whose favorite pizza is Hawaiian pizza?
You'd be surprised. A lot of people love Hawaiian pizza.
Isn't it a Canadian creation? Yeah. Created by Sam Panopoulos, a Greek-born Canadian. He created the first Hawaiian pizza at the Satellite Restaurant in Chatham-Kent, Ontario, Canada, in 1962.
Shout out the tribe.
So I could buy it, dude. It's weird as hell to me. I mean, I've had it. I get it. I do get it. But it's like not my favorite. You know, anybody who says it's their favorite.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I like Hawaiian pizza, but I wouldn't say my favorite. Like, I would order something else.
Well, the Ninja Turtles would beg to differ. They loved their Hawaiian.
Well, I think Martin begs to differ. I think.
Yeah,
I think
the whole
like you have disgust for Hawaiian.
The whole country of Italy begs to differ. Ask tell an Italian that you like pineapple on pizza, and watch their reaction.
Give me a nice plate of lasagna any day.
Lasagna, there you go. Yeah, So imagine the dinner nights they have around when Renee was growing up. She was on a Hawaiian pizza, and Stephen, her dad, was having lasagna every night by the sounds of it. So Renee comes. She's like, yeah, you did order my favorite food, but you know, you owe me one for this, because you know this isn't what I planned the vacation to be, pizza and beer. You know, we're out in this beautiful area.
Planned a vacation to cook every night, obviously.
Yeah. Which is really odd. Why would you go on vacation? You know, fair enough, like you're in half board, but I wouldn't want to go out. You could be going out to the restaurants, checking out the local area, wouldn't you?
No, she spent all day on Pinterest looking up recipes and she wanted to do them. So
Well, let's remember, like, cooking is her thing, right? You know, she's got a cookbook, and like, you have to imagine when they're on the road, they probably don't have these opportunities to make a home cooked meal that often.
Oh, for sure. I know.
very
It's
true,
just
yeah.
again, she comes off again very neurotic.
Pizza
I have a
looked good
plan.
though,
I
man.
want to follow through with the plan. Any sort of deviation will mess up my day.
Yeah.
Pizza looked good though, man.
Yeah,
Big.
she wasn't happy with it because she picked it up and the topping slid off, which is annoying. So the day after, and Renee's had enough of Mox just wearing all his tap out gear. He had the tap out cap on, the tap out fucking t-shirt. You can definitely tell this
WWE
was
bought a steak.
yeah.
Product placement.
Yep. And so she's like, "Oh, we need to go shopping. You need a suit." You know, he tries some shirts and shoes on, and Mox is like, "I look like I work at Radio Shack." And Renee says, "You've got to have a suit." And so it's that famous. We use it the screen grab for this show image of Mox just sat looking mortified on a settee while Renee's looking at him as if to go, "Come on, do this for me. Buy a suit." Because the whole reason for the suit is that they're going out for a posh meal at an Italian place. Because they sit down at this Italian and Mox says merci, and Renee's like, "It's Italian, not French, mate." And he asks for a whiskey, and the way it says we only do wine and beer, so they get some wine, and Mox isn't a fan of this fine Italian food. He asks, why the shrimps in a fudge sundae glass. Obviously never seen a prawn cocktail before, and Renee says, "You're putting it on?" He's like, "No, I'm having a good time." And she's perhaps all this fairy tale stuff that girls dream of just isn't for them. I mean, the whole image, Mox in the suit, you're not used to seeing him in a suit, and him sort of like taking the piss out of the food, and that, it's a classic sort of scripted reality TV. This isn't it, where putting them in situations where they look uncomfortable and trying to make it amusing to the audience.
I could have seen this actually being the story, like WWE storyline, or at least like a scene, that Vince would have dreamt up. Like, how do we show that this guy's crazy and completely like unfit for, I don't know, like what you might perceive to be like a fancy dinner. It's just kind of almost like a, I don't know, tropey type of
Table
story.
I mean, as they alluded to at the end, he's a tramp.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they were sort of trying to portray him as. He was this homeless bum that they took to a fancy restaurant. This place looked awful.
Like table for three.
Not the food, but the decor of this place looked terrible. Like, it was not first of all, no one was in there apart from some awkward couple behind them or something, but the place was empty, and it was just,
you always get that reality shows though, whenever they go out for dinner or anything, the places are always empty.
The place they went to at the end looked like a normal, I guess that was kind of what they were trying. But anyway.
Are there fancy restaurants in Lake Tahoe?
No,
Maybe this was the
never
vibe of like a cabin-y type of place,
We got to ask Helen Mirren because she lives in the Lake Tahoe.
Oh,
Does she?
Yeah.
okay.
Every day, just all day.
Take the crown off. Brandon.
But this episode was very much like of the same theme. You're almost like what I was kind of looking for was like, was there any sort of growth in Renee throughout these episodes? And the answer is really no. Every new episode, she just kind of reverts back to wanting to fit Jon Moxley into the certain mold, and Moxley acts completely over the top erratic. And Renee is like, "I'm so frustrated at you. I'm so mad at you, Jon." And then somebody somewhere gives her the lesson that, hey, you shouldn't really change everybody. This is not us. Don't be who you are. And Renee's like, "You know what? You're right. I'm sorry, Jon. Let's have a beer." And the end. That's like kind of the 3 episodes that we got on this.
Yeah.
This series.
Because it is funny when they do go to that dive bar. Mox gets a beer and he says it tastes awful. I love it. Obviously, it must have been like Blue Ribbon or. Well, there's loads of awful American beers in the brand, and Budweiser, Coors Light, could have been any of them.
Corona.
Blue Moon.
Yeah.
Lord.
Those are Blue Moon's delicious.
Shut up. It's awful.
It's all right.
Go
All
drink a
American
Foster's.
beer is terrible. No, that's bad too.
Yeah,
the man who's drinking a non-alcoholic beer right now is lecturing people on the taste of beer. It's interesting.
There's a couple of decent ones, microbrews, especially in like Portland and Oregon and stuff like that. You can get some great like Fat Tire and stuff like that. Yeah, there's some good stuff up there. But
That's Fat Tire is owned by a corporation now.
Hey,
Where is it? Someone bought it out. Oh no, sold out.
But
Sold
Moxley
out for
looked
the
great
month.
in a suit, by the way. He looked like he was going to put Joker paint on and rob the first bank of Gotham, or join Evolution. That back. Beautiful.
This is when he got really defensive about his hair, wasn't it? Because she tried combing his hair
Again.
when he put the suit on, yeah, and he wasn't having it at all.
Yeah. That the combination, that gray suit jacket, like he was right. He looked like a game show host. that was not the suit wasn't bad, but the combination of what they decided to put on with that tie and everything, like black shirt, gray suit jacket, like what is going on? Like you could have done so much better. But,
I think they wanted him to look stupid and uncomfortable, didn't they, in this suit? They were like, oh, let's laugh at the scruff, yeah, in his cheap suit. It's funny when they do go to the pub, though, because they're looking at the menu, and it has clam strips, and Mox says, ooh, show me your clam strip. Oh, that's a line you've used before that, isn't it, Brandon?
Oh man, he said he's got the gift of gab with the ladies, man. Respect.
Oh yeah, big time.
My kind of party.
This is when the lesson comes in for Renee, doesn't it? Because Mox, because she goes, I wanted to go to the posh play. I thought it'd be like a Disney film, like Lady and the Tramp. And Mox is like, Lady and the Tramp is in a back alleyway. It's not posh. It's
And no one told him to say that line. I swear, he came up with that himself. But yeah. And then she's like, oh, you're right. Oh, it was in an alley, wasn't it? I'm so stupid. And then that's it. It was great.
That's kind of like we do get a brief appearance from Mox in the sort of episode 15. It's Renee and Natalia are having this beef over their pets. They're both on Instagram, famous pets, and they're going to make T-shirts on them. And Mox has just sat there in a Big Japan Deathmatch T-shirt saying, you've got a lot of cats, Natalia. And then that was it for Mox. Total Divas. Obviously, Renee continued to appear as a guest star, not main cast. But as a whole, obviously, we didn't really have that much insight into their relationship, Brandon. But as a whole, did you feel like you learned more about Mox as a human being watching these episodes of Total Divas, or the relationship that he has with Renee? Or do you think it was all total bullshit and the only reality we got was when they were in a pub having a couple of drinks or whatever?
Total bullshit.
I think they came across as a good couple. Yeah, they seemed like pretty natural, besides the bullshit activities and whatnot, and him drinking a lot, which was concerning. But I thought they came across a pretty natural couple, and I think some aspects of Moxley came out a little bit. Like he seemed like he seems like an engaging personality in real life, and with Renee and stuff like that.
I mean, where you said you thought he looked annoying in the previous episode. Do you think he was annoying, like messing around in this posh restaurant? Would you not have that? Are you a bit more like etiquette and stuff like that when you're out at these places?
Yeah, no, not so much. I kind of sympathize with him a bit more in this one because these are kind of like stuck up places that would make a lot of people kind of uncomfortable, right? So but I did find him overall pretty annoying, and I think that's because like I really got the sense he was exaggerating to like an obnoxious degree, who he might actually be, the eccentric sort of part. Like that's what reality show is. I think it's the classic pro wrestling thing where you take your personality and you just kind of distill it into like an exaggerated form, and that's where I think they got Renee sort of overly organized, neurotic, character from, and probably where they got, Dean Ambrose's direction to be as annoying as possible from. So I think that was the intent. And as far as like whether or not I actually got a glimpse into their relationship, again, like let's remember these are probably exaggerated versions or like caricatures of like who they might actually be. But maybe you had some sense of like the dynamic between what people would consider a very sort of like, you would, on the surface, you might not expect these two to be a couple. And this gave you at least a small glimpse, maybe an exaggerated glimpse into why they might work.
I think you get more of a look into their relationship when on a YouTube interview, I can't remember what it's called now, the sessions. Mm-hmm. No longer the oral sessions with Renee, when it's just there and Mox, and they're obviously just chatting in their house and that. I think you get more of an insight into their actual relationship when you watch those interviews than you do on this Total Divas episode.
Yeah.
What about you, Dickie? Did you feel like, how did you feel watching this? Obviously not as a fan of reality TV, but also, looking in, more into Mox and Renee's relationship.
Well, like, I mean, I couldn't really take any of this as kind of a real life snapshot, I suppose, but I did see some parallels. Like, this is the thing, like, there were definitely bits and pieces that the kind of mirror images of those interviews that you were talking about on Renee's podcast, where you kind of tell like, oh, this is the real stuff, and then there's all this other thing. Kind of one of the other things about Moxley and his performance as well, that, Wai was saying, he's been told to wacky it up. But it's also another thing, like if you really are doing something and you think the whole thing is stupid, you definitely act a certain way, like you don't care, So, I almost felt like you got that with when he was trying to be charming with the mother, that kind of like almost I'm just overdoing it. Everything they ask me, sort of thing. And he gets asked to do that in wrestling all the time, but he doesn't think wrestling is stupid. He may think the promo that has been written for him is stupid, but he takes his profession very seriously and he wants to do a very good job. He doesn't care about any of this. So he's still going to do it, but he's just probably just going to entertain himself and all that sort of stuff. So look, I will tell you that I had a big smile on my face for most of the stuff that I watched with these two, just because I thought it was mostly fun and funny and just a bit of a laugh. And I couldn't for the life of me have any interest in watching Miz and Maurice and, even Naomi and Jimmy.
Eva Marie.
Really. I'm sure Eva Maria, I'm sure some of those things are fine and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, I don't think I would have had the same big smile on my face during all those segments kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there, because as much as I'm not going to race out and watch the rest of the series of Total Divas, there was a lot of, they were quite like having a smile on your face, and there were a lot of fun bits in this, so it was worth a quick watch. I'm glad I just flicked through and watched the Mox bits, and like you, Brandon, but there were some fun bits in there, weren't there? I feel, Brandon, just even if it was script, even if it was like not them being truly themselves, there were a lot of little fun situations and things in there.
Yeah, it made them more interesting. I enjoyed peeking into the behind the curtain on how Jon Moxley is outside the ropes and stuff of that, things of that nature. I also enjoyed the show itself. It was a good journey back in time when things were simpler, and you get to see how all these divas were very interesting back in that time.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, any final thoughts before we let you get out of here while we wrap the show?
Before we let you go, I always wanted to say this, but give us your plugs too, also.
Thank you.
He doesn't want to hear what they are. He just has always wanted to say it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I won't give them then. I don't really have anything else to say about the show. It's it is what it's a reality show, and it features like a lot of wrestlers you might really enjoy, and I guess I'm grateful that it exists, because otherwise how would you get Jon Moxley or Bryan Danielson on a reality TV show? So that's it.
Well, what I would ask you, Wai, is what's the reason why they wouldn't just do this now with their current, what they've got? I mean, it seems successful enough and easy enough to produce.
I don't know. Maybe the fact that I mean, everything kind of runs its course, right? This Mormon show that you're talking about probably will only run for so long. maybe they weren't impressed with the ratings towards the end of the season. Maybe a lot of it just kind of came down to like the appeal of the Bellas and them not necessarily being around it, and therefore not
They
really,
definitely aren't going to be around in it. Yeah.
no, and therefore not really having the franchise anymore, right? So you look at the roster. Who do you think would succeed in that sort of role to lead one of these Total Divas reboots?
I think it's too hard to tell, right? Like, I mean, because I think some of these people would excel. Like, I don't know, you could put like a Piper Niven on one of these or something, and she might be like the star of the show kind of thing, but she's a bit player in WWE. Is that her WWE name, or is it something else?
Okay, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Dewdrop.
No. I mean, anyway, but even like a Chelsea Green, or you could. But I mean, some of these people you didn't even realize that they were like putting Renee on. I thought was a really interesting idea and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, I guess my point is more like, yeah, you're right from like an network perspective and all this sort of stuff. But I think from a shoulder content perspective, this is far more successful than AEW backstage, say, for instance, and the way that they kind of tried to do something similar, but it was very confusing. They didn't really know what they were. But also I thought more successful than pretty much any of WWE's other shoulder programming, because it appealed to a wider audience, more so than their studio films or a 365 or 24 or whatever. So like, I would just say that this is a home run of something that they could keep doing, because at least like the roster sort of changes, new people come around from NXT, you can plug them in and all that sort of stuff. So I just find it interesting that that stopped.
I guess so much of it, I just think might be out of their control. Like it's so much of the success of this comes down to the producers that are involved in Bunim and Murray and their connections, and wanting to, like, despite the fact that reality TV, I imagine, is still very cheap compared to like a lot of types of programming, it's still probably pretty expensive, to just get these crews out there to shoot and to edit and to have the producers of high regard that they have working on something like this. And what is that, if you don't have a broadcaster, first and foremost, like, is that worthwhile to engage in?
Netflix, what are you talking about?
Maybe that's something they would consider pitching. I don't,
Yeah.
Becky and Seth, the reality show. We don't watch that.
I'm sure they've been pitched. Like, look at what is it, Montez and Bianca Belair. That they
You
got
think
one.
Mark Shapiro is looking for that corporate synergy for?
I guarantee you
the
they are, yes.
activation.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. On that bombshell. Thank you so much, Wai. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're an incredibly busy guy. We've you put that extra WWE have given you to good use, I feel, this week. So do you have any plugs? You don't need to do them off air.
Yes, I want to plug the Honda downtown on Eastern Avenue in Toronto, Ontario, for
I won't buy that place.
hopefully fixing my car. I received a call in the middle of this podcast. I'm going to call them back. Hopefully my car is ready to be picked up right now, and that I will have air conditioning finally. Also,
This is still
What
going
a saga!
on.
That is a
Still going on, dude.
saga.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to pay $2,000 to
Oh wow!
yeah, on top of like the money I've already spent. So I mean, I'm expecting a call back, right, or calling them right now for them to tell me that they found other issues and that it's still not fixed. So fingers crossed. But give them I'm giving them a plug right now so that you may avoid them at all costs. There you go.
Or they've saved the day and you should go to them. But probably
Whatever.
not, right? No, okay.
We'll find out. We'll find out soon. But thank you guys for letting me come on. This has been a real pleasure, and congratulations on 1 year of Eagles.
No, thank
Don't
you very
Fly.
much.
Thank you, Wai.
Here's Wai.
Thank you, Wai.
Take care.
See you later,
Bye.
mate. Right. The Mr. Wai Ting, awesome as always. So yeah, go to Chop Tees Post Wrestling. Wai obviously needs the cash now because of that saga with his car, so buy some Post Wrestling merch. But lads, we're coming to the end of the show. Tons of stuff on Poison Rana this month. Sino, Shot in the Dark. Happy birthday for the other week, Sino. Of course, obviously you, Dickie, as well. Happy birthday to you for the other week.
And Jordan Goodman as well.
Yeah, Jordan Goodman, who's in the chat. We appreciate that. Braden and Davey, obviously, weekly Poison Rana shows, Detox with Jordan Goodman. I thought he was in Florida, but I've seen from the chat that he was supposed to be going to Orlando, but obviously that Rainforest Cafe is going to have to wait. And of course, the Patreon, only £4.50 a month to get access to a whole host of other shows. You know, they recently reviewed Bad Blood 97. They've got a fantastic new series, The Champ is Here, talking all about John Cena's title reigns. And October's spooky season, and you know, Davey and Braden are always good value for that, so expect horror movies galore. I think they're also doing a horror screening at a bar in Toronto, so if you're in the area, head to that. And of course, all roads lead to poisonrana.ca or Poison Rana Pod on socials. And Dickie, we had a bit of a taster of all the stuff that's been going on at Chop Teas recently. Any more stuff you want to talk to us about?
No, that I did it all at the start. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Apart from that, pray for me, because the next 24 hours is going to be very difficult. But hopefully, I just, it's like when you go to work and you're hungover, like badly hungover, which you should never do, guys. But back in the day, and it's just you just got to get through it. There's an end in sight, and then you can go to bed, and then you'll be fine the next day. So, yeah. Apart from that, Dickie Bird Media on Twitter, Instagram, @chopped_tees, Twitter, Instagram. Give us a follow. We're putting out some good stuff. You don't have to follow my personal stuff. I mainly just do cryptic subtweets about people. Right, Brandon?
Speaking of cryptic subtweets about people, Brandon, where can people follow you on social media?
Brandon from New Jersey. You know the deal. Also on Instagram. I'm gonna go get a workout in after this, as John politely asked me if I came back from my workout or not in the chat. And just hanging out on a Friday, man, and trying to recruit for my losses of getting dumped and whatnot. But all is well, man. Excited a year together. The Ambrose, stronger than ever. And here's to another year. We're bringing the heat. We got so much stuff coming out, so much content down the road. It is going to be an incredible year for this triarcha. These group of men that are just carrying the flag for Poison Rana. This is the ultimate shoulder programming for this network. We are the Ambrose. We are men, MEN, and we're going to bring in 2025 like we did 2024. We're going to be stronger than ever. One fisting each other into the new year. We're going to feel it's going to be hard, it's going to be fast, and it's going to be enjoyable. Ambrose together again. Men. MEN.
Hallelujah, Hare Krishna. What a call to arms that was for men. Also, thanks to all the women who listen to the show as well.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks to everyone who joined us in the chat. Jordan Goodman, Karen, obviously, was super happy that you've got through the big hurricane and everything that's going on in Florida recently. Shout out to obviously Jojo Remy as well. He was in the heart of it, Tampa. I messaged him today, and he seems like he's doing well. So, good to all our friends in Florida. They're doing well, and everyone else who joins in the chat, thank you. And that's about it. So we will be back next month in November. Not sure what we're going to be talking about yet, but I'm sure it'll be all fun and games like it always is. And until that, we will see you again, Ambrose. Au revoir.